post that Michelle Obama put up because it illustrates some of the Ketanji Brown Jackson thinking here. She wrote, "Back in college, I was one of the few black students on my campus, and I was proud of getting into such a respected school. I knew I'd worked hard for it, but still, I sometimes wondered if people thought I got there because of affirmative action. It was a shadow that students like me couldn't shake, whether those doubts came from the outside or inside our own minds. But the fact is this, I belonged. And semester after semester, decade after decade, for more than half a century, countless students like me showed they belonged too. It wasn't just the kids of color who benefited either. Every student who heard a perspective they might not have encountered, who had an assumption challenged, who had their minds and their hearts opened, gained a lot as well. It wasn't perfect, but there's no doubt that it helped offer new ladders of opportunity for those who throughout history have too often been denied a chance to show how fast they can climb. Of course, students on my campus and countless others across the country were and continue to be granted special consideration for admissions. Some have parents who graduated from the same school. Others have families who can afford coaches to help them run faster or hit a ball harder. Others go to high schools with lavish resources for tutors and extensive standardized test prep that helps them score higher on college entrance exams. We don't usually question if those students belong. So often we just accept that money, power, and privilege are perfectly justifiable forms of affirmative action, while kids growing up like I did are expected to compete when the ground is anything but level. So today my heart breaks for any young person out there who's wondering what their future holds and what kind of chances will be open to them. And while I know the strength and grit that lies inside kids who have always had to sweat a little more to climb the same ladders, I hope and I pray that the rest of us are willing to sweat a little too. Today is a reminder that we've got to do the work not just to enact policies that reflect our values of equity and fairness, but to truly make those values real in all of our schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods.
And apart from the sheer emetic quality of her prose as ever, I don't know why Michelle Obama always feels this desire to sort of throw herself into debates like this. I mean, she's the former First Lady. I don't know. Are we all waiting to hear from Laura Bush?
No, because she had an SAT prep person, I'm sure, and that means she's
maybe Melania Trump should weigh in soon on her thought. I mean, seriously, she's a former First Lady. She got where she did through all sorts of means. But the idea that this means that she has to sort of soapbox about the Supreme Court, I find, as I say, sort of emetic among other things. But here's the thing. She admits something very strange, but interesting at the beginning of that long-winded statement, which is she says that when she was at university, she sometimes wondered whether she had got there through merit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I said in my column in the New York Post today, that's one of the many secondary effects of affirmative action, is that it suggests to many people, black and not black, that the black students may actually be lesser than in intellectual and cognitive ability than the others, and have been only able to get there because they've had an unnatural boost from the admissions process. So that, as Michelle Obama shows, is something which actually, far from, giving you the strength to climb the ladder and all of those other banal Hallmark cards insights that Michelle Obama forever gives people, actually detonates something at the beginning of your university career, which is maybe I'm not here on my own merits. And here's one of many other things. There's much to say about this, but Michelle Obama, as ever, sees these things through the race lens. Mm-hmm. Now, she herself is an exceptionally privileged person. She is married to one of the most privileged people in the world. Should their children, when applying for college, I think they've already done that, but should they be regarded as black applicants to Harvard or wherever, or should their extraordinarily privileged, in fact more privileged than anyone else in the world, probably apart from the Duke and Duchess of Montecito, should they be regarded as being highly privileged and therefore marked down?
So Douglas Murray there giving former First Lady Michelle Obama a taste of her own words, probably with a little bit of salt and pepper, making her eat those words. Virtue signaling all the way through written to some of this. And I just wanted to go over some of this here. It says here, back in college, she was one of the few black students on campus. She was proud of getting into such a respected school. She says she worked hard for it. But still, she wondered if maybe she didn't get there because of affirmative action. We all know that she got there because of affirmative action, not because of her grades, not because she probably worked hard. But if you take a look at the lawsuit that was filed by the Asian students, over 90% of the minority students and those that are coming, those are black students that are applying at Harvard, did not have the grades to get into Harvard at all. That's 90%, folks. Thomas Sowell has done a huge body of work on this, finding out that most of the black students, they end up failing or dropping out from these institutions because although they may have been the cream of the crop at the high school level where they came from, or maybe predominantly black schools where they came from, and they were at the top there, they still weren't at the top competing across the national averages across the United States of America. On the other hand, you see the Asian students, Chinese and Indian, completely dominating that aspect of meritocracy, of scoring high on all the achievement tests and every other test. But in order to sort of level the playing field for the affirmative action to work, these schools have had to mark down the scores on an abstraction type of basis because they can't mark down a score. You got 100 out of 100 on an aptitude test. They can't take that away. You have that score. Well, they can say, well, this accounts for a certain percentage of our way of gauging, your application, but we're going to have other things, so that might not weigh as high. And now they can, and in other cases, they did score down. So if you did score at a higher aptitude, they knocked down 200, 250 points, or they took 200, 250 points from their scoring scale against Asian and Chinese students and Japanese and other students. And they increased scores for black students by 100 to 150. And this is absolutely what they did. They were trying to hide that or whatever, but it was brought out in court. Now, the whole idea is they're virtue signaling. This is all virtue signaling. And it is incredible as to how much that they're virtue signaling over here. And then she goes on to say that her heart breaks for any young person who's wondering what the future holds and what chances will open up to them. And while she knows that the strength and grit that lies in us kids have always had to sweat a little more to climb the ladders, she hopes and prays that the rest of us are willing to sweat a little too. This is from a lady, folks, who has got privilege. Now, the left wants to call it, and again, add race into privilege, color, melanin pigment into color. Into race. That's what they want to do. So if they want to do that, let's go ahead and play by their rules. Play by Michelle Obama's playbook. All right. Does anybody disagree that Michelle Obama has got black privilege? And black privilege on a scale that no other black woman has ever had in the history of the United States of America? Being married to the President of the United States, who also now has privilege, not only of being the President of the United States, that comes with privilege, right? But black, and privilege there. So what about the black privilege? Would you say that the black privilege of Michelle Obama out-trumps, get it, out-trumps the white privilege of Barbara Bush? Oh, I would say it certainly does. Because until Michelle Obama came on the scene, there were no black first ladies. We all know that. But there were 44 previous white ladies who had white privilege. White first lady privilege. And now Michelle Obama is only one of one. So that is a special kind of privilege, a special kind of black privilege that's only been afforded to her. But she doesn't talk about that, you see. She wants to throw it out there and just call it white privilege, to obfuscate, to not even bring that on the table, to try to keep that away, because she knows if she brings that in a conversation, that's something that she has to address, and she doesn't want to address it. It's uncomfortable to address it, because now you're weighing privilege, and that privilege is breaking the barrier of color. It's breaking the color of race. It's just privilege of being the first lady to the president of the United States of America, which she's one of one, as I've said before. So they can virtue signal all the time, all they want. That's all this is, folks, is virtue signaling. And let it be known that she's always going to wonder. We're all going to wonder. Did Michelle Obama get in because she was black and only black and underperformed? Or did she really get there on her merits? No one will ever know. But the question for her in her mind and in our minds will always remain. And that stigma will always be attached to her. And that's what happens with affirmative action. Well, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host, Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already and you love our channel, you like the content, smack that subscription bell, like, share, and follow us. You all know what to do. Check out our videos here and below. And my final thought, as always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.